Yesterday, the Ioniq ran out of power, just 7/10 of a mile away from home. The day started with 77 miles range and heavy rain. 77 miles I thought was plenty to run my daughter to college in the morning and then pick her up in the afternoon. She's had an operation on her feet and is unable to take public transport for a few weeks. Waze usually takes me 9 miles along the A38 to college and 13 miles along the M5 back. The rain meant the traffic this morning was awful and the journey to college involved several detours and took an hour. On the way home, I got a call from the hospital with an urgent appointment with my daughter later in the morning, so when I got home, I had my breakfast and with about 60 miles range left, I set off back to college to collect her. After the hospital appointment and the return journey back to college, I had about 44 miles range left. So, knowing that I'd have to drive home and then back to college, and with a bit of free time, I decided to top up. Big mistake. I drove first the 9.5 miles to Hopwood services and waited 15 minutes for a leaf to finish using the CHAdeMO charger on the CCS post. Then, when I tried to charge, the app reported the CCS charger had no connection. So I updated ZapMap
Continuous recording will now start.
and headed to Abbey Stadium, where another Nissan Leaf was charging. When I got there, it had been charging 8 minutes and was on 75%. I waited until it was on 90%, but the owner still didn't return and I couldn't stop the charge. So running out of time and with 30 miles range left, I drove back home for lunch before heading back off to college. At the college and with my daughter in the car ready to go, when planning the final journey home, I had a choice between a 9-mile 40-minute journey or a 13-mile 25-minute journey. With 17 miles range left, I switched off the entertainment and climate systems and chose the longer route. With 4.5 miles to go, when driving up an incline on the M5, the power suddenly reduced a little and the range switched from 6 to 4 miles.
Oh, car's slowed down now. Charge immediately, power limited. Look at that, the car's actually physically slowed down. Did you feel that then?
I don't know, maybe. I feel like you definitely feel things more in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
And I just don't know.
Charge immediately, power limited.
Is that accurate, the 4 miles left?
I don't know. It went down from 5 or 6 to 4. And we've still got 3.9 miles to go.
You won't?
A little bit.
I coasted 1.5 miles along the downhill stretch to junction 4 and exited with 2.5 miles left to go and 4 miles range showing.
There we go, look, ooh, 2.5 miles to go. So look, I'm going to slow us down now by putting the regen on, look. You feel it? And then all we have to do is just touch the brakes at the end.
Then, shortly after exiting the motorway, the range dropped from 4 miles to 0 and the car demanded we charge immediately.
Look at this, range 0 miles.
I had no choice but to press on home.
Power limited. Charge up a little bit now.
I remember feeling confident that I'd make it home because I thought that there'd be a reserve of energy in much the same way as there's a reserve of fuel in internal combustion engine cars, even when the fuel gauge reads 0. As we passed some school traffic up an incline, the speed reduced to a crawl.
At least this is as fast as I'll go.
I'm gonna pull over then. Maybe here somewhere? No, you're gonna pull over? Oh.
I was still moving, so I put the hazards on in the hope that I might be able to crawl home.
You're gonna try and go all the way home like this?
And after making the next turn, and while still crawling along, the display stated that the car would not start. I had to stop to let a car pass, and a tad over a kilometre from home, the Ioniq quit.
That's it.
The display continued to function normally, but in drive, pressing the accelerator did nothing.
Now I've got the...
So I put the car in neutral for the first time ever. My daughter rang her mum to ask her to come to pick her up,
Okay.
and I rang the RAC.
Okay then. Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Hour and a half wait.
And pushed it to the side with my daughter steering from the passenger seat.
Oh boy.
Steer it into the curb, Elise.
Oh.
Right, away from the curb now. Keep it straight.
Alright, straighten it up now or?
Yeah, just keep it along the road. Might be able to get it home like this. Instead of waiting the 90 minutes estimated time for rescue, I started pushing the car some more. About 150 yards along the road is a turning onto the downward slope of Licky Hills towards home. So I knew if I could get the Ioniq there, I could coast it most of the way.
There's a car behind us and we're going backwards. Like. There's another one from the front. Okay, there's one from the front and behind. Okay, do you want to go back in?
Nope.
Please be.
Over to the left a little bit.
Thank
Sorry?
you.
Oh, thank you. About a mile and a half. A couple of really kind passers-by stopped and offered to help, so I jumped inside and let them push. Yes, I was feeling guilty about not pushing, so I was glad when the wife turned up so that I could get out and push while she drove. This was the first time she had ever driven the Ioniq. What an introduction to driving electric cars. Put it in N. Press N.
You didn't
That's
tell me
it.
that. Oh, it's raining. Oh my gosh.
And put it in park.
Just use the brake to stop it. As the car started to coast downhill, I thanked the men for helping.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And with the help of another man, pushed the car through the turn. The wife stopped the Ioniq and returned to her car, and I coasted the car down the hill towards home.
Yeah, what about that uphill? That's the phone number. Should I pick it up?
What phone number? Whose?
Don't know.
Yeah.
Hello? Yes, thanks. Wait, is this about the car? Hello, yeah, my dad is trying to get it back home. We had some people to push it, and I think we might be able to make it.
We will be able to make it.
Well, we pushed it some of the way, and then it's kind of downhill from there. it's alright if I put you on speaker and you can speak to my dad because he knows more about it. Thank you. Okay. I don't want to speak it.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Wright, you okay?
Yes, fine, thank you. I've got about 100 yards to push it, and then it's downhill then.
Right.
So,
Okay, Mr. Wright.
don't need you now, but thank you very much.
After the next turn, the Ioniq stopped again, another push up to speed, and I jumped in to coast it down the drive and to the charger.
Right, here we go. Steer it.
Okay.
Steer it to the right.
How hard is it to push?
Not that hard actually, Elise.
I'm surprised.
Hey?
I'm surprised.
Once it's got momentum.
Yeah.
So what went wrong? Well, I thought I had 4 miles leeway on a 13-mile journey. The Ioniq unexpectedly cut its range, first from 6 to 4 miles, and then from 4 miles to 0. The lesson I've learned is to give the Ioniq way more margin for error and not trust the displayed range. Also, I'm going to put the car on charge up to full every night. Because the definition of an unexpected journey is that you're not expecting it, and I don't want to be caught out with less power than I need in the future. And, as has been demonstrated numerous times, the public charging infrastructure just isn't reliable enough yet.
Yeah.
Thank God the gates were open.
Incidentally, I've run out of petrol twice in my 37 years driving. Both times I was lucky enough to be uphill from a garage and could coast down to pull in and fill up. This time I felt embarrassed to tell people it's an electric car and it's run out of electricity. Usually I consider myself to be a good advocate for EVs, but today I let the side down.
Aren't people kind? Well, that was an interesting day. Not recommended. I've got a question for existing Ioniq EV owners. Are you tempted to upgrade to the version 2 available to order from September 2019 apparently? An upgrade from the 28 to 38 kilowatt hour battery, plus lots of other improvements in styling and layout of the interior and features. Are you tempted? Or are you also tempted by the new VW ID.3, which sounds very interesting, with 3 battery options, the largest of which could give us a phenomenal amount of range, 75 kilowatts battery in that. Wow. So it's an interesting time for EV owners and potential EV owners. Some more options becoming available. Please let me know in the comments below what you think. If you've enjoyed this video, then I'd be so grateful if you give it a like, maybe even subscribe, hit the little notification bell, and enjoy the sunny weather while it lasts. See you soon.